Good morning. Today is February the 11th, 2026. It is about 10:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah, the God of the Bible, Old, New, and Third Testament. One God, one person, one name above all names. And that name is Yahweh Yahuwah. So, we're going to start our daily briefing with our topicals. So I guess I will start with the follow-up on dinner last night. It went okay. No stir fry. Frozen is ever gonna be as good as fresh, of course, but for convenience I ended up going with the stir fry last night. It did end up being the chicken and cheese. So it was pretty good. I'm really glad that they took out a lot of the corn, because we've had the same brand a few months ago, and the wife was making a note that it just seemed like it had a lot of corn. So it was good to see that this time around it was more balanced, because you don't want to be filling it in with the cheapest vegetable, right? Because the filler, if you're expecting to get good greens, good carrots, some pasta, but then you get like 50% corn, loses its healthy note. But so dinner went well, and been doing the deal. The garden is doing well. The bees are doing well. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about the world and humanity. I mean, I always do, but I'll tell you, it's hard for any parent just to get their own home in good order. It is even more difficult as Elohim on earth to try to get humanity in good order. I tell you, it is this process is being built on sleepless nights, relentless work between me and my angels, just in general. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yes, I am tired. I didn't sleep very well. Got a bit of a kink in my neck. Woke up with a bit of a headache. It's par for the course. Today's video is brought to the song is brought to us by Cozy and Sunny. It's a cozy or a snowy Paris winter morning, relaxing classical music. So again, this is more in line with my type of music. When we're in the car, there's like an oldies station, but even then, like 6 out of the 10 songs they play, we just turn the volume down because they're not things I want to hear. I don't ever like to hear songs about lust. I don't want to hear songs about broken marriages. I don't want to hear songs about, gambling. I don't want to hear songs about drinking. I don't like to hear, I just don't. But does that stop the world from creating it? No. Because humans by your nature, you have identity issues. And thus, most of the world, right? Why they're seeking masses, why they seek mass approval, why they look up to singers, songwriters, politicians, religious cult figures, whatever, church leaders. It's because they're trying to find identity. And humans have a hard time truly just accepting the truth. Some people, they feel the truth is, Scully and Mulder. The truth is out there, that there's some elaborate space alien plan, and that's false. Some humans believe that it's all random, But that's the most foolish one of all, because you can clearly see the lack of evidence of anything living outside of this biodome, and that everything in the biodome has a purpose within conjunction with each other. Nothing natural produces something natural that is harmful. So therefore, all these things are created by a mind. Well, whose mind? Well, that would be my mind. It's difficult being the living God on earth, because I don't care to be seen for anything that mankind could give me. Not your money, not your material, nothing. But it is, in a way, being a cosmic lawmaker, being a judge, right? The El Elyon, the Most High God. But that really just means the God that has the most responsibility, and the originator of these things. But to be seen so humankind can have an affirmation of who they are, what their connection to me is, what their destination is when they pass away, and how they are expected to act in the creation. I don't feel that that's not a hard limbo to do, or it shouldn't be. If it is a hard limbo to do, then, how far astray have you gone? Are people a part? Well, I don't need to ask, because I know, but, people are a part of the liberal church, right? Where they truly are idolaters. They worship politicians. They worship a false god, right? And I've said this. I don't dislike any people, any place, but I can strongly rebuke behavior. And of course, if someone is hijacking what really shouldn't even be religion, just a fact of being an alive person with free will, with sovereignty, your ability to truly do whatever you want to do in the creation, so long as you don't hurt others, so long as you don't steal, you don't cheat, you don't lie, you don't murder, you stay to the rules, right? Don't trash the creation. Don't be a terrible person. Know that when you fall, there's a hand that can help you back up, right? But that only happens when people can recognize they've fallen. And the hardest people to ever convince that they are not perfect are Christians and Jews. And thus is another problem with Christians, is they fight with me day and night. Well, I can't be perfect. That's why I need the blood of Jesus. No, that's a pagan ideology. That's not truth. There is no supernatural blood libel that is ever going to do anything. And then there's not truth in dead flesh resurrecting. It's just not possible. It's not possible. And at this turning point, right, humans would rather go to the grave with a lie than accept the truth and me take their soul to heaven. It's pretty clear cut. What is a church for? A church is truly to educate. It's to educate. And likewise, what's a government for? To regulate. The less educated a person, a people group, or a nation, the more regulation is less necessary. It goes one way or the other. And, educating humans is at the forefront. It's the true seeds of good and evil, right? A stupid person is carrying around seeds of evil because they're misconstruing truth. Even more dangerous, popular humans who are spreading seeds of evil. And then you have mass humans that are watering it and tending their lies, and now their lies have grown into these huge monstrosities that the only way to take them down, unfortunately, how do you take down a large tree? Well, you start by going limb by limb, and then you start taking out the largest trunk sections from the top down. As the cosmic judge, as Yahweh on earth, the incarnate Elohim, the Christ. That is a part of my job that's not very fun. Because the reaction is similar to a toddler who's just obsessed with eating candy. Candy, 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 candy. They like false Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. They like the I'm saved by blood and saved by grace. I can do no wrong because there is no right, there is no wrong. And we can look up to the Erica and Charlie Kirks of the world and think that they're our Christ, that they're our heroes, they're our saviors, they're invincible. Well, as I've said, I am God on earth. I've proven that for 4 years of witnesses. But I also said that Charlie needed to tell the truth, and if he didn't, he was not going to be protected from that. And he didn't tell the truth, and thus he wasn't protected by that. Again, it just activated the false church to gain martyrdom. And that's, again, how do I as Elohim combat that, right? Because if I go into a church and I sit everyone down one-to-one, I'm going to walk out of that church with, at minimum, departing truth. They reject the truth, but that doesn't mean that what I'm saying is untrue. That means that what they've been taught is untrue. If Adam and Eve knew beforehand the consequences were as they were, they wouldn't have done what they did. But their lack of trusting in me and the acceptance and agreeance with external characters forged that path. I didn't force them. I started this entire thing out truly with human comfort, safety, desire, all these things. I built the initial creation on these things. And, well, humans that listen, learn, and obey are more than taken care of. Right? They are held up in divine arms to be celebrated. Of course, those that ignore, refuse to learn, and are disobedient, well, just like a child, if a child's going around biting, the child needs correction. If the child is going around praising false gods while using my foundation, my actual religion as their base, as their pedestal, then they are directly interfering with me. Do you see? I'm not getting in their lane. They're getting in my lane. If you are teaching and preaching things that are against me, right? You're waiting on a return of Jesus. There is no Jesus. That's not a real name. There is in no way, shape, or form that the current physics of this reality that I control and created is ever going to happen. Human biblical writers are faulty, have been faulty, they've been proven faulty. Most of those things are witnesses. That has no bearing on the words that I, as God, said and say. I've taught from mountains. I've taught from the bottom, taught from the middle. And I mean, and again, refusal to learn, refusal to listen, and ultimately refusal to obey. It carries on the same sins generation after generation. And it ends up with more players for Satan and working his plans, desires, versus working for my team, which is the true kingdom of heaven. So it's an issue. And it's more of an issue. So Asher and I were just talking last night. This is how I kind of got on today's topic was, we were talking about the school systems and how they're just pretty terrible now. I mentioned my dissatisfaction with the school yesterday, and lo and behold, today there's a massive fire burning on the backside of that high school, my adopted daughter's high school, and she's staying home today because there's too much smoke for the kids to attend. That's how I operate. That's how my will influences reality. And that's nothing big. That's nothing big. But it still serves as a witness, so. But we were talking. And, we were saying, these kids are getting to 12th grade, and I mean, they don't know anything. There should be classes also in school that teach kids, how to pay your bills, what 20% credit card interest looks like in the real life scape, right? So many young kids, right, that turn 18, they get that first credit card offer. They don't know what 21% interest looks like. All they see is $1,000 or $2,000 credit limit, and then that child spends and spends and spends, right? Because the pleasure of spending money on themselves, their friends, or hobbies, or whatever, but it goes quick. Then they get the bill, and the bill says, oh, well, the minimum payment is $21.66. And the kid goes, all right. I just spent $2,000 and I only got to pay $21. That's a good deal to that kid who's ignorant because he was never taught what this really is. So that kid makes it $21.66, the minimum payment for 2 years. And then he finally gets curious and he looks through his credit card and goes, why is my balance still $2,000? I've paid $21.66 for 24 months. Because no one told that kid that you pay the interest first, and the minimum payment is just the interest. That for every $100 you're spending, you're paying an additional $21 just to access that $100. And on your bill, you're paying in the interest first. You always pay the interest first, unless you have an interest deferred type of loan, which credit cards are not. My point is, how many 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds fell for that same thing because they didn't have a teacher? Their parents may not have been bad parents, but the chances are their parents didn't even know. You see, so in this case, if the child was educated properly before obtaining a credit card, the child would hopefully not have taken such a terrible offer at 21% of a credit card. But even if they did, they would have fully understood that, okay, you need to pay more than the minimum to actually pay down your debt, and this is what it's actually costing you. If the person is uneducated and they go about the path that we just discussed, right? They're just spending, paying the minimum payment. They're just flushing money down the drain, right? And then let's say that, we continue that process. Then they go to buy a car, and the same thing. Then they try to buy a home one day, and then they realize that, the whole time they've been mismanaging their money, mismanaging their finances. And then they have to start the digging out process. And then that can take 5 to 7 years, you see? It hampers American communities. It hampers American civilization. Because when we have blind, deaf, dumb, and ignorant people in millions, in the numbers of the millions. See, it used to be at least people were educated, properly before things. And now, it either doesn't exist because it's a backhanded play for companies to make millions, billions of dollars off of ignorant young people, right? So then in which case we have to what? We would have to regulate. So to protect the stupid and the young and the ignorant, then we would have to regulate the banking institutions so they don't prey on ignorant, dumb young people. Or we educate ignorant, dumb young people to become smart young people, and thus those people as individuals can circumvent the pain that comes with financial mismanagement. And thus, right? So it's one side or the other. If people fail to educate, then either spiritually, I as God have to regulate, and in a human sense, humans that don't educate, the government will regulate, right? Humans were ignorant when it came to the problems of securing the border. Well, guess what happened? The counterbalance to that is the federal government regulates. ICE is a regulatory force. In the early West, they had early lawmen, frontiersmen, called the regulators. That's their job. They were to regulate. And they were regulating lawlessness. Lawlessness comes from uneducated people. People that commit crime that do not understand the criminality, right? A never pays in the end. But you see how every problem in human society, human culture, spiritual, non-spiritual, can be approached and solved with education. Okay, I'm gonna take a 5 and we'll come back. So carrying on, educate or regulate, right? It can be illustrated in many ways, but it really is a fundamental fact. Because if, let's say, a child is never educated about the world, as God, I know kind of a standard list of things that I'm going to expect from uneducated humans. Usually it's experimental drugs or alcohol, premarital sex, beginning patternizations of lies because all these things are ignorantly done. Whereas if a child was educated about the dangers of drugs and alcohol at an early age, thus they're educated about the dangers and they avoid them, you would cut down on so many teenage misnomers, troubles, arrests, etc. Because, right, the uneducated parent doesn't know any better. But I assure you, the gates of heaven never accept ignorance as an acceptance. That's another fact. And when I, as Elohim, look down at my churches, all of them, and I see the uneducated perpetuating more ignorance into what are supposed to be my people, my flocks, it's terribly frustrating. Be like me as the father. Obviously, I'm the father of all, but I have natural born Elohim, my sons, and my wife. So they never get a pass of ignorance. But let's say I'm teaching Cameron, but then every time Cameron goes to church, or any time Cameron is out in the world, he's being counter-taught by Uncle Satan. So then at the end of the day, right, if he's educated enough, he'll know the things that I've taught him, and he'll trust and believe in those things, and thus he's going to avoid Uncle Satan. And he'll know what his traps are. Drugs, alcohol, bad music. Music is frequency. Frequency is exactly how I, as the creator, have created everything. It's frequency and applying the laws of physics to accelerate growth. Dumb humans are dangerous humans to themselves and others. Educated humans walk with what you might call a higher mind. That is what separates the human animal from the human that ascends into the heavens. Because an educated Christian, let's say, an educated Christian would go, I do believe, an educated Christian will go, I do believe in God's word. I do believe that all this is created. An educated Christian also goes, through logistical reasoning that my God gave me, I know that mankind is faulty because in the very stories in which are in the Bible, it's a routine theme. It is a theme that has reoccurred over and over and over. And the theme of the masses being chronically led astray from true kingdom biblical truth. That good educated Christian would say, I want to leave it up to my direct relationship with God, and I am going to align the truth that he says and apply that to my heart and my hands and my feet. An educated Christian is going to obey those 10 commandments like their life depends on it, because it does. The educated Christian is going to know better than to try to charge me, Elohim, when I am on earth, and try to hold me accountable for mankind's faulty penmanship of the word, their mishandling of my word. Smart, educated Christians, Jews, anybody, person. You ain't got to be a label. But in general, that educated Christian's going to know those 10 commandments are close to my God's heart. He wants all of his children to walk righteously and to walk high above, and wants them to be very educated, and that departing knowledge is what my God's all about. Love, grace, and mercy are given to those that are being educated on the matter. It would be like holding an algebra class. I'm the teacher. I go, okay, there's 40 students in my class, but they're all trying. Some are knocking it out of the park. They're getting 98s, 99s on the test, and others might be struggling. But you know what? Their butts are in the seat. That means I'm going to keep working with them. We're going to keep going over the same material. We're going to keep hashing it out, right? I'm going to pick a couple of kids out of that class who are doing super good, and then I'm going to say, hey, I want you to pair up with the students that aren't doing good. You're going to be a tutor to them. You're going to be my assistant. You're going to be a teacher's helper. And guess what? That job is what a pastor, a preacher, a teacher, a priest, chief among them, a pope, is supposed to be. The chief teachers, those that are tutoring my flocks on my behalf. At any point did I ever want my churches to teach liberal principles that go against the creation, that go against the fundamental universal laws of creation? Understand, in this dimension, Earth is alone, and everything you see in the cosmos is truly the handiwork of God. And me as Yahweh, the God on earth. It is even impressive for myself to witness it from the vessel of flesh. And yet, when you cross over and you end up into the kingdom, you have supersized life. Heaven is substantially larger than earth could ever be. And again, there's a code of conduct that is expected and is required. If humans cannot accept that code of conduct, then therefore you do not agree to the terms and conditions of heaven. That is not a place that one would go. This is not a hard concept. If you go into a restaurant, you're expected to wear shoes, a shirt, you're expected to pay your bill, you're expected to tip a certain amount, you're expected to have a certain mannerism, behavior in the restaurant. If you walked in, no shoes, no shirt, cigarette hanging out your mouth, can of beer, you're just loud, obnoxious, you're going around slapping patrons, you're taking the food in the buffet and you're just slinging it, you'd be arrested, right? That's regulation. Handling the uneducated. If the uneducated do not like being handled by the regulators, then I suggest you get educated. If my churches have a problem with me calling the name of Jesus fake because it's true, that is a problem you need to fix by educating. If churches have a problem that I am here, I suggest you go educate. If you have a problem with righteousness, I suggest you educate. If you got a problem with ICE, educate. If you got a problem with your government, educate. If you got a problem, educate. And therefore, if you have no problems, chances are you're extremely ignorant and you're in bliss, but thus still does not matter when it comes to the kingdom. Here's the difference. The kingdom that the Christians have invented is a non-existent place. There is a place called the kingdom of heaven. There is a place that divine beings have lived for billions of years before humans were even thought of. Humanity humanity was originally not supposed to be gifted a soul until later in the program, until the kinks were worked out. Well, when the fallen angels took a flesh vehicle, which is what I am in, a flesh vehicle, but I was born as my flesh vehicle. It gave the fallen angels the ability to conceive children with a soul. And thus that means it's a piece of energy that'll retain memory. It's a piece of energy that will retain its individual identity. It happened before it was time. And I never like to be reactive. I always like to be proactive. But disobedience, uneducation, and mistrust in me 100% of the time leads to bad things. They may not be bad in the immediate, but they are bad in the long run. And it truly is at the detriment of humanity. Because if I was in any way bad, wicked, or evil, then I would not care. Because not caring really is the epitome of, it's like one of the worst things humanity could do, right? Like a child, right? Let's say he does have good parents. The child's like, I don't want to hear about drugs and alcohol. I'm going to do what I want. Don't tell me about getting married before engaging with a woman. Don't tell me that. I don't care. Don't tell me I should drive sensibly. I don't care, right? Just like Christians, praise the name of Jesus because why? They don't care. They don't care. They don't care that the actual God that they supposedly are building a relationship with is here, present in the flesh. They don't care. Well, I can do a lot of things as God, but you know what I can't do? I can't make humans care. I can't make humans love. I can't make humans obey. I can't make humans take education. And it's a sad, sad thing. Because people, right, they're going to align themselves with whatever their heart's desires are. There's many religious people out there that have thousands, millions even, of people that are following them or whatever, right? And it's because if they're telling lies, well, guess what they're going to attract? A lot of liars. And likewise, I am the true God of heaven, and I am here living proof telling you that what's being propagated in my churches is false. It's not biblical. It's not has anything to do with me, Yahweh Elohim. My churches don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. They just don't. Right? Because like with the parable, I'm not even sure I finished it, but the Jesus movement, cultural Christianity, and this even applies to the Jews, right? Jews have developed an entire, self-exalting identity in being Jewish. And so much to the point that they would rather reject me, the living God, because I'm not Jewish. They're putting their own nationality above the sovereignty and respect and praise and honor that I, as their God, do and should receive from hearts. You see what I mean? They're putting their own traditions ahead of me. They're putting their own identity ahead of me. And they don't really care about me as Elohim, the creator. They want a Messiah to teach them all things Jewish. Christians want their version of Jesus to come and fulfill their fairy tales that they've been indoctrinated into for hundreds of years. And I mean, again, where is this my problem? I'm sitting here every day educating. People refuse to learn. They don't want to learn. They don't care. And because people don't care, right? Illegals breaking the border. Well, we don't care. Well, you care when they murder one of your family members, right? Liberals don't want law officers But whenever their mom gets abducted by one of these bad people, I bet they really wish that the law officers in Pima County were better. But guess what? It all stems from lack of knowledge. That's a fact. That's a fact. You know, because it is interesting as God, when I do read the Word, I see the things that humankind have really overlooked the whole time. You know, they've never even seen, where are we at here? Deuteronomy 12, then it shall come about, because you listened to these judgments, and you did them. You did all of the Lord. I am the Lord, Yahweh incarnate as the Lord, right? It's an acronym, guys. The Lord is an acronym. Lesser, ordinance, ruler, divine. Lord is lesser, ordinance, ruler, divine. That was common knowledge 400 years ago in Middle Ages and Renaissance Europe. And that's also why, if you look at English culture, they used to have lords and knights and kings and queens. The lords were lesser ordinance, ruler, divine. Well, that was my title. I'm saying humans like to apply these things to them, right? This is the angelic movement. And so I'm saying they use that same concept. But the Lord, your God, right? Grand overall designer. God. Grand overall designer. And I don't even know where I was at. That was a good part of it, actually. In Deuteronomy 9, know therefore that the Lord your God, He is God, the faithful God, who keeps His covenants and His loving kindness to 1,000 generations with those who love Him and keep His commandments. Who is showing me any love today? Other than my wife and my children, nobody. I've given companies technology that they didn't even say thank you for. I have given blessings to people who couldn't care less or even know my name. I have saved children. I have saved men, women, and children alike all across the earth without so much as a thank you or a head nod. Instead, most people have just given thank yous and glory to each other, Deuteronomy 10, chapter 7, verse 10. But Yahweh repays those who hate Him to their faces. He destroys them, and He will not delay with him who hates Him. He will repay them to their face. Therefore, you shall keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I am commanding you today to do them. And again, it shall come about, because you listen to these judgments and keep and do them, that the Lord your God will keep with you His covenant and His loving kindness, which He swore to your forefathers. He will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will also bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your ground, your grain, your new wine and oil, an increase of your herd and the young of your flock in the land which He swore to your forefathers to give you. And You shall consume all the peoples whom the Lord your God will deliver to you. Your eye shall not pity them, nor shall you serve their gods, for that would be a snare to you. If you should say in your heart, these nations are greater than I, how can I dispossess them? You shall not be afraid of them, nor shall remember what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and all of Egypt. Wasn't planning on even opening the book today, but just goes to show you that even with the misconstrued word, you can clearly see when I am speaking, when I am making decree, when I am providing instructions, directions, they keep a theme. When you are reading things, Old or New Testament, that are not in sync with what I actually say now, have said then, and have said repeatedly, it is not I who is in the wrong. It is the human. So, Asherah is doing a corporate meeting here soon, and turn this down a tick. She's doing a corporate meeting soon, so they sent her a Uber Eats gift card, which is nice because I get to partake in her luncheon. So I guess we're doing Taco Bell for lunch. We never eat out for lunch, especially. I usually do the turkey wraps for lunch, and then we cook dinner every night. But for these big corporate events that she'll be doing virtually, we're going to make use of the gift card and get Taco Bell. I guess I will do the beef supreme chalupa with a beefy 5-layer burrito, and then I like the dragon fruit drink at Taco Bell. So that'll be my lunch here coming up. And then the daughter is home because of the school fire. So that's my will being done, right? My dissatisfaction with her school, the lazy teachers all around have more than disappointed me. At 12th grade, she should be more educated than she is. And every time I hear about her day, it's basically the teachers just trying to get them to pass by the skin of their teeth. The teachers just trying to get, since when did the minimum requirements become the expectation? Since when did my churches, took out all the things that they should be doing and then just left in there that slot of, you don't have to do it because you're forgiven, grace, blood, those are pagan ideals that stemmed from truly mixed pagan religion, right? When the truth came over from Sinai, every place it's traveled to, they've put their own twist and spin on it. And that part especially was big during the Druids? England? The Druids had a past of pagan blood libel. And so that's where really they've interjected that. You see, if you are highly educated in these things, if you are an educated person just in general, and you know falsity from truth, you know biblical truth versus the fugazi, you know the BS versus the truth, right? Then I am the most comforting thing you'll ever witness from your human life. Me being present upon the earth now is and will ever be your biggest comfort. That is a fact. That is a promise. Because I am living proof that these things are not only real, but these are the things that govern the earth plane through and through. And I think she'll be off here in a few minutes, and we're going to run up there and grab lunch. So actually, I'm going to pause now. Pause now, have lunch. It's going to be a little bit of an early lunch, but I will reconvene momentarily. And we're back. So, my wife ran up and grabbed our lunch. It was pretty good. As I said, I had beef supreme chalupa, 5-layer beefy burrito, hard taco, and little cinnamon Twizzlers. Boy, they give you a lot of food. That was a lot more than I expected for lunch. This thing, though, is absolutely phenomenal. This is the dragon fruit. I mean, that's good stuff. So back to our little powwow here. You know, educate versus regulate. You know, the more people are educated, the less regulation they need. That's really the American dream, right? Because when you can self-educate, that means you're avoiding pitfalls, you're avoiding sin, you're educated about me, your Elohim, your creator, you know where to call for help. That's going to prevent idolatry. That prevents people from reaching out, you know, to humans to do my job, right, as Elohim, but in the world in which you live. So the ignorant, the uneducated, are what forces regulation. And then those same people are upset that they're having to be regulated. If you don't want more regulation, then you need more education. It's very simple. And this also goes with biblical principle. So if you're not at a moment where you as a human being are trying or accepting of truth, who I am, and my real name, and the real parts of the kingdom, the real parts of me, God, that are real, right? If you are unwilling, then really your default is you're not educated enough. You're not educated enough to feel comfortable about me, to feel comfortable about biblical truth. Therefore, until you've reached that period of truth, of enlightenment really, and then you fall under regulation, right? So it's kind of like a two-party road, right? If you are on the track and you're educated about me, your God, you're educated about the way the world works, how you avoid sin, how you avoid, you know, ending up in millions of different bad places, right? Then if you're ignorant to that, 10 out of 10, you're going to end up getting caught up in the regulation, right? So it gets layers upon layers, but it really proves true in every layer. If an ignorant teenager, because his parents or what have you, right, never educated them, they're going to fall. And we see this all through society, right? Young teenagers getting pregnant, they don't have the slightest clue how to take care of themselves, and now they're trying to bring a life into the world. The parents are uneducated, so it's an entire family of ignorance. And then the ignorance doesn't stop there, right? Usually it follows with addiction, because their life is a disaster, and it's stressful, and it's unmanageable, right? In the Alcoholics Anonymous program, it does state very clearly and effectively that life has become unmanageable. And only through God is He able to restore us back to sanity. But the magic doesn't happen in AA that you just sit there and cross your fingers and hope. No, because you did not initiate anything. To initiate, right, the first part of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, it's a spiritual program, but it is designed around addiction. And the interesting part is because you could even use a 12-step program to actually develop a stronger, more real relationship with me, your Elohim, than in most churches, unfortunately. I'll pause it real quick. Well, that was sweet. She was coming in to tell me that one of her leaders won a very important award at her company. Good company, she does. She works with a lot of tenured adults. You know, it's nice to see that there are companies that employ just good adults, you know. Her leader's been in the business, or been in that company in that role for over 17 years. And that's not even a drop in the bucket. Some of these people have been working for this particular corporation for 30 plus years. So I think that, you know, my wife is with a good spot. But anyway, so you could literally use the 12-step program on, you know, and truly, like, people that have, like, started out unknowledgeable, ignorant about biblical things, about life in general, right? They usually learn the hardest way. They have that child early, right? They split from the mother or the father. They go on to, you know, speckle with different partners, different jobs, different upheavals, like constant commotion, no peace, no time to teach their own children. Instead, now they're getting knocked up with more children. They constantly are inflicting wounds, right? They're inflicting pain upon themselves, all because of ignorance. And that's where, you know, we need to really, like, get with the program, educate or regulate. And that's where it comes back to, right? Where people are saying you're saved by the blood of Jesus. That's false. That's wrong. What would actually save you in a human scape of a creation that a big, mighty God made for you? Learn how to treat it well. Learn how to listen to God. Learn how to walk out biblical principles. Learn that there are certain things, like the false name, that are going to set you apart. Do you want to stand with the masses and go where they go? Or do you want to stand in the set apart and then know where you go? Like, you can get what I mean. Because again, right, it all does. It boils down to truth. And the more people lie, the more people stretch the truth, the more people continuously propagate falsehood, guess what you're doing? You are all, like, putting craters in an otherwise flat field, like I said yesterday, right? Stop putting craters because of your own selfishness. That's what I mean. Like, a Christian would say, well, it's my faith. It's mine. I can do it how I want. Okay, then you're in a club, not a religion. There's a difference. The religion means that you're obeying what the God in which you worship says. That would be me. So stop disobeying what I say. You see? These are very clear principles. Why are they so difficult for humankind to understand and to get with the program? Right? Mostly, right? Because uneducated pastors, right? Now we have people that can go to a seminary school, get a stamp of approval, become a pastor, and guess what? They can download the daily pastor verse. They can go through entire curriculums of how to teach your flocks in 12 months. Like, and you're literally just regurgitating the same lies over and over and over. So you're taking lies, making mud pies, and pounding them. And then every time truth is trying to prevail, you're just pounding on your mud cake of lies. That's not effective. And again, you're working against me, the God of heaven. If people want to deny who I am, then that's your business, right? Go find another religion. Go worship Buddha for all I care. But the fact is, the times we're living in right now, out of 8.9 million people, billion people upon the planet, right? I have less than 20 subscribers to the channel because I guess there's about 20 people that want to hear the truth. Out of almost 9 billion people, there's only 20 people that actually want to hear the truth. But yet there's a 500 million people at least, or more, like 2.3 billion people, Christians, that are propagating a false name, false salvation, blood libels, pagan Christmas, pagan Easter, resurrection, like all these things that are a fugazi. So then you actually are not in the real church. You're not in the real religion. You're in an invention of mankind. So then you will get what mankind has to offer. So we're at the hour. And, it's a bit of a down-tempo day, which is okay. Not every day is going to be thrills and frills. Some days are going to be more mild. You know, that's life. But if everyone did at least a good job now, understanding me, learning, articulating not only the message, but, my presence on earth. That's a big part of this. So if you're not communicating that, then that's what it means. So if I'm disappointing you, right? I haven't done magic tricks for you. I haven't put on the George Lucas theater for you. Well, that is your own false expectations, right? And being able to go through the Bible, looking at reality versus fiction, again, educate or regulate. And those that are educated don't necessarily need to regulate, right? Because they're educated. You see what I mean? So, really, it is what it is. There wouldn't be DUI punishments if people were educated about drinking and driving, and if they were educated and they didn't do it, right, then it wouldn't have happened. So therefore the law wouldn't exist. So it's truly a crux that humanity is in, and only humanity individually is going to be able to correct it. So it starts with one person, right? Just like back then it started with John. Back then it started with Moses, before John, obviously. But I'm saying these things have always been a struggle, me with mankind, right? Millions of Israelites would not have died in the desert if they believed what was happening right in front of them. But even then, right, it wasn't flashy enough, or they questioned, they doubted, but really all they did is they refused to educate. So, have a good Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And with that,